Do you feel like you've gained and lost the same weight over and over again? Today we're going to be talking about a different method that you can use that's a little different from what a lot of people are talking about, that's going to allow you to lose fat and keep it off forever. We're going to be talking about habits. A habit, as defined by James Clear in his book Atomic Habits, are the small decisions you make and actions you perform every day. He goes on to say that according to researchers at Duke University, habits account for about 40% of our behavior on any given day. He sums it up saying that your life is essentially the sum of all your habits. Now, why is a habit-based approach important for fat loss? Because anyone can cut out carbs for a few weeks and lose fat. Anyone can lay off ice cream, cakes, junk food for a challenge. But what about after the challenge? What will you do then? Most people go back to the old way of eating because they haven't learned the habits you need for long-lasting fat loss. What happens when you go back to your old way of eating? Most likely regain the weight that you've lost. The point is, cutting out carbs, fats, junk food, and every other bad things that you can think of work, but they only work in the short term. If you want long-lasting fat loss, you'll need to develop the habits needed for long-lasting fat loss. I first noticed this phenomenon, I guess, when I worked at the first personal training studio that I ever worked in. So that personal training studio was notorious for challenges, short, quick challenges that went on for 8 to 10 weeks, where they encouraged clients to cut out carbs, cut out fat, exercise a lot. A lot of those people were general population, meaning they've never really exercised before, and they were going from 0 hours of exercise up to 10 plus per week. Now, of course, in the 10-week period of the challenge, they're able to lay off everything that the trainers told them to lay off, and they will lose massive amount of weight. I remember a client lost 16 kilos in 10 weeks, one thing, even up to 20 plus in 10 weeks, which is, 2 kilos plus per week. Now, the interesting thing is that after a few weeks, when the challenge finished, you'd see people come in less and less. You see them actually gain weight because we were weighing them every week at that point to keep track of their progress. And I came to realize that it wasn't because they were weak or that they somehow failed because they weren't able to stick to their diet. It was because they were given an approach that didn't teach them jack shit. It just taught them to cut out carbs, fat, and exercise a lot more. Now, people can do that for a short period of time, but what about after? You need to be able to build the habits necessary for you to have long-lasting fat loss. And unfortunately, you can't do that in a 10-week challenge. So what happened to all these clients? Well, most of them actually rebounded after a few weeks, after a few months. Probably 1 out of 10 people were able to keep the fat loss and keep it going. Most people would revert back and gain the weight back because they, eat all the foods that they missed during the challenge, and they exercise less because there was no more challenge for them. So that's just an example of why you need a habit-based approach when it comes to long-lasting fat loss. So what does a habit-based approach to fat loss actually look like? Well, it's about changing the habits, the easiest habits that you can think of in your day-to-day life. Now that's going to be different for everyone. So here's just a couple of tips that I use for my own clients when determining what they should work on. Okay, so the first one is start with the easiest things first. Like I mentioned, this is different for everyone. It could be adding water walking more, whatever it may be. The second is think adding, not subtracting. When trying to lose fat, most people think about cutting out foods. Try adding the foods, but the proper foods. For example, vegetables, salads, fruits, enough protein for your body weight. For a breakdown of the 5 basic habits that you need, click up here for another video that I've done previously. Now the third tip that I would give is that find an approach that actually works for you. Again, this is another video that I made which talks about the different diets and how they work. The following are some examples of what a habit-based approach to weight loss looks like. Let's say someone's goal is to walk an hour a day. Now that might seem too much, especially if they're starting from 0 hours of walking per day. So how a habit-based approach can be used to eventually build up to that 1 hour looks something like this. Every day, start off with just 10 minutes a day. Whether in the morning, in the afternoon, or at night, I'm sure you can find 10 minutes during your day to do a 10-minute walk. Once this gets easy, which may take a few weeks or a few days depending on you, then you increase it by the smallest increment. I'd probably go up by 5 minutes every time. So it'll be, the first 1 to 2 weeks would be 10 minutes, and then 3 to 4 weeks, that was too easy, so you increase it to 15 minutes, and 4 to 8 weeks it goes up to 20, and so on and so forth until you can build up to that 1 hour of walking per day. Now a nutrition example that we can look at is, say you want to increase your vegetable intake because you're like, oh shit, I'm not eating enough vegetables. So you go from nothing at all per day, so you start off with the smallest amount, 50, 100 grams per day. That's not a lot. That's probably, the size of my palm. That's easy to get in during your day. Same thing goes, the first couple of weeks you just do, let's say, 100 grams. Once that gets easy and you have a taste for vegetables, then you increase it to 150, and then 200, and then so on and so forth till you get to around 400 grams, which is the recommended intake for everyone. It's all about starting from the easiest things that you can think of and gradually increasing to the optimal level for you. Now, you might be thinking, this approach seems to take a while. I want the results as soon as possible. Well, I've got bad news for you because, long-lasting results take time. You didn't gain the fat in just a short few weeks. You gained it over months and years of not eating right or not exercising. So you can't expect fat loss to happen at the same rate. Like we already discussed earlier, it can be done. However, the faster the fat loss, the quicker, the higher likely chance of fat regain, and probably even gain more than you originally lost. So just keep that in mind when trying to decide whether you should do a habit-based approach or a, cut out everything approach and see how you go. Okay? So you want nutritional habits so strong that if given the choice between chocolate and salad, let's say, most of the time you'll choose the salad. I'm not saying that you can never have the chocolate. You can have it, but have the salads first, or, have a very tiny piece of chocolate. A lot of places sell very small party size chocolates now, so that helps reduce your overall consumption. So, human nature is to fall off the wagon at times, and that's normal for dieting and whatever else in life. Just remember that as long as you hop back on the wagon, you haven't lost. It's about progress, not perception. If you need help figuring out the easiest things for you to change, drop a comment down below and I'll be happy to give you a hand. Till next time, this is Brian B from Brian B Fitness. See ya!